Welcome aboard to NJ.com and Mass Live getting together here for our chat, Google Hangout before the Jets and the Patriots Thursday night up at Gillette Stadium. The Jets coming in off of a really difficult season so far. The Patriots look like it was going to be a difficult season. They've bounced back the last 2 weeks. We have Dom Cosentino of NJ.com, and we have Kevin Duffy of Mass Live with us here to preview this game. Guys, how you doing tonight?
Good. How are you?
Doing well. How about you, Kevin?
I'm good. Thank you for having me on this.
Yeah, we appreciate you being here. All right, so Kevin, tell us a little about. We know the Jets have had a lot of problems this year. We all know that. Tell us a little about the Pats. A couple weeks ago, the Monday night game, a high-profile game against the Chiefs, and they got blown out. There were questions about Brady, and of course, Belichick didn't want to answer questions in the press conference. Since then, though, it seems like the team has put themselves back together.
Yeah, it's fairly amazing actually, because I was among the contingent. I was convinced that they just weren't very good this year, just with the personnel they had on offense, and then they bounced back against Cincinnati. And the last two games, Brady has looked like Brady of 2011, 2012. The Rob Gronkowski, I think, has been the biggest difference. He was a little slow starting out with his ACL. So he was 8 months off surgery when he first started the season. But in the last 2 weeks, you've seen him kind of running more downfield routes, and that's opened up the whole offense, to be honest. So it's been a big turnaround. But then again, the injuries really hit hard against Buffalo. You have Ridley out for the year with an ACL, MCL, and Gerard Mayo is also done for the year with the knee injury. So, Thursday night's not going to be, they're not going to coast on Thursday night. This is a pretty beat-up team on a short week. So it should be, I would think, a fairly close game. I don't know what you think, Dom.
Close game, Dom?
I actually think it will be too. Just even with as poorly as the Jets have been playing, they've actually played well against Brady, all things considered, in recent seasons. And the Chargers game is really the only game they've been blown out this year. So I think with the short week and some of the injuries that Kevin mentioned there, I think a lot of people will figure the Jets are going up to Foxborough with no chance on Thursday night. But I'm not going to say they're going to win, but I think this game's going to be a lot closer than a lot of people think.
Guys, how about the division this year? Now, the Jets haven't played a division game, which is kind of strange, and we're pretty deep into a season to have your first division game here this week. I know the Patriots have played the Dolphins, they've played the Bills. In both your opinions, what is the AFC East really like this year? We'll go to Kevin first.
I don't think it's a very good division overall. Miami looked really good in Week 1 against the Patriots, and it's been kind of, they're 2-3 now. It's been, again, they almost beat Green Bay last week, so maybe Miami's decent. Buffalo, I like Buffalo's defense. I don't think they have enough offense at all with Kyle Orton at quarterback, and the run game isn't even really that great up there either. And the Jets, you guys would know better than I would, but at 1-5 with your only win against Oakland, you would have to consider the Jets to be one of the worst teams in the league at this point, right?
Is that for me?
Yeah, sure. It's for either of you guys.
I would say yes. You would. They are one of the worst teams in the league, even though they lost 5 games really to teams that are potential playoff teams. But the mistakes they're making in terms of penalties, in terms of not being able to get off the field on third down, red zone defense has just been bad, and obviously the myriad problems they have on offense, from Geno Smith to the offensive line's inability to open holes for the run game, to the receivers just flat out not able to get open. This is a team that's going nowhere fast, and I don't see them, frankly, winning for another 3 weeks, really. But they're going to have a lot of problems. And the division, though, itself, I really, to echo what Kevin said, I think that it's still the Patriots' division until somebody steps up and says otherwise. And it sort of looked like in the early going that Miami and Buffalo might have something to say about that. But they're both pretty flawed teams. And I think as long as Tom Brady is in uniform and standing upright, the Patriots are the team to beat in the AFC East.
What kind of challenges does this game represent for both teams because it's such a short week? The Thursday night games, we've seen this year there have been many duds on Thursday night, blowouts. And the only two road teams that have won have been the division opponents, where the Colts went into Houston last week and won, and the Giants against the Redskins. Well, Kevin, first, the home team, the Patriots, obviously a little bit of an advantage here to be home on a Thursday night and have to travel. But how about just the challenges it faces for any team having to play Sunday to Thursday?
Yeah, most of the guys on the Patriots didn't really say either way if it's that much of a disadvantage, but you'd have to imagine it is, especially given how beat up they are. Take Mayo and Ridley aside; those guys are done for the year. But there's other, Brian Stork and Dan Connolly, two of their starting linemen, have concussions, and neither practiced today. So maybe if this was a Sunday game, both would be able to make it. But a Thursday game, that's a quick turnaround, especially for Connolly, because he suffered his concussion Sunday against Buffalo. So it would be pretty shocking if he was out there. So just and Dante Hightower, another one. He didn't play Sunday, kind of tested out his knee before the game, and you could tell watching him just test it out with a few drills that he wasn't really ready to go. So again, if this game was Sunday, maybe Hightower is better, but making it 3 days earlier, I think the biggest challenge is just the guys who are a little nicked up. It's going to be hard to even just get out and play on Thursday.
Dom, for the Jets, do you think it's almost a good thing that it's a short week and they just get back to actually playing a game, considering every time the Jets have a regular week, it seems like more negativity comes out?
Yeah, I mean, the negativity doesn't seem to affect a lot of the guys in the locker room. That's something they put up with for the hour that we're in there, and I don't know that how much of that really carries over in the rest of their daily lives, frankly. But the short week just gives them a chance to, I think, regroup and get back out there and play again, which this team, really needs another opportunity to do, just given how the last month has now gone for them. They're banged up. They don't have as many significant injuries maybe as the Patriots do. Brian Winters is now out along the offensive line, but Ode Ibushi got some reps in training camp at both guard spots, so he ought to be able to step in and fill in. And frankly, Winters had not been playing well at all, so it's not a significant loss for the Jets there, but they are going to be without cornerback D. Milner. They've been out without him for most of the season anyway, but he's now done for the year too. So they're looking at having Darren Walls and Phillip Adams start at corner again, which doesn't sound too great. But when you consider the injuries the Patriots have on their offensive line, the Jets' strength continues to be their defensive line. And if they're able to get pressure without really having to blitz or commit more than 3 or 4 pass rushers to getting after Tom Brady, they might be able to do some damage, and they've done it in the past. And that was the formula the Chiefs used against the Patriots a couple weeks ago too, was to really bring a 4-man rush and get after him. If and Sheldon Richardson and Muhammad Wilkerson have been playing well, if they can do it Thursday, the Jets absolutely have a chance.
Guys, let's talk about the quarterbacks here. Obviously, we know about Brady, and Geno Smith's had a tough year, but for Jets fans who haven't watched much of the Pats outside of maybe a Monday night or a Sunday night game this year, Kevin, is this the same Tom Brady? There were questions a few weeks ago by some. I think most people realize Brady's Brady, but for the first time I can remember, people actually were saying, maybe the end is close for Tom Brady. Is there any truth to that, or is he still Tom Brady?
Yeah, it's an interesting thing to talk about, and I do think there's obviously truth to it because he's 37 years old. He's clearly not as good at 37 as he was at 30 or 29. I mean, nobody is. You say the same thing about Peyton Manning, even though Peyton Manning broke the single season records last year. But overall, I don't think the problems you saw in the first couple of weeks weren't really on Brady. It was just a lack of protection, number one, and secondly, as I mentioned before, Gronkowski has looked way more comfortable in the past 2 weeks, and that's made a world of difference for Brady. The third thing is that they, aside from Gronkowski and Edelman, who's a really reliable slot guy, they don't have great playmakers on offense. They don't have great skill players, and that hasn't really changed. Now, they've had 2 great weeks in a row. That's not to say that they couldn't come out the next couple of weeks and put up a stinker on offense. That's still very possible. So overall, I don't think that Brady's not Brady at 29 years old, but he's also probably still one of the best 5 quarterbacks in the league at this point, I would say.
How about Geno Smith? I don't think we can call him one of the best 5 quarterbacks in the league, huh, Dom?
No, I wouldn't go that far at this point. He's certainly been disappointing, and the Jets do have a lot of issues on offense other than him, but he, you're kind of waiting for him to step up and make a play or just get through a game without a costly or even boneheaded turnover, and he just can't seem to do that. So certainly a different problem when it comes to the quarterback situation down here than the one they have up there in Foxborough.
Dom Cosentino and Kevin Duffy are joining us here. Dom from NJ.com, Kevin, MassLive.com, as we get ready for the Jets and the Patriots, a short week on Thursday night. The Patriots still looking like the best team in the AFC East. The Jets having a very difficult year. Guys, we've seen a lot of these Jets-Patriots battles over the years with Rex Ryan on one side and Bill Belichick on the other. Kevin, I know you've only been covering the Patriots here just for this season, but I'm sure you've been following this rivalry for a while from afar, and now you're immersed in it here. Have you had any thoughts that this could be the end of the Rex Ryan versus Bill Belichick battles here the next two games if this is Rex's final season?
No, it's interesting. I actually hadn't thought about it like that because I hadn't really thought about it from the Jets' perspective of it probably being Rex's last season. But yeah, I mean, I grew up in Connecticut, so I've been kind of in the, I was in the middle of either you follow the Jets or the Giants, or you follow the Pats. So I've been familiar with the rivalry for a long time, and it's been definitely fun to watch. And I think all the players, Brady even said that today. It's been a fun rivalry for them going against Rex Ryan, and the Jets defense, in past years has certainly given them some trouble. So yeah, it's kind of interesting. It very well could be the end of it, huh?
You mentioned it, Dom, a few minutes ago. The Jets have actually, given the Patriots trouble at times. They've played pretty well against the Patriots. Last year they beat them at home, and there was a Thursday game there last year where they had a decent chance to win until the end, early in the season.
Yeah, and Geno Smith didn't play well in that game. Stop me if you've heard that before. That first game, he threw a couple picks late, and that it kind of wound up being the Jets' undoing. But they've been able to kind of keep Brady from really going off, for quite later that they went into Foxborough and won a playoff game, so they were blown out. But they've stepped up with this rivalry. That a lot of guys have talked this week about. There's still some juice to it, even with the Jets being 1-5 and riding a 5-game losing streak. So like I said, I wouldn't be surprised if this were a close game in some way, even though I do think it's difficult to envision the Jets winning it. But certainly Rex Ryan, he's his same joking self whenever anyone brings up the Patriots or Belichick or Brady. He's been quick with a quip and things like that. So this game gets these guys up. Still, there's no question. Even though there is this kind of pall hanging over the facility right now as to whether we're looking at the last 10 games of Rex Ryan's tenure here in Florham Park.
Kevin, we know about Tom Brady. We know about Rob Gronkowski. For Jets fans watching, for Jets fans getting ready for this game on Thursday and hoping for an upset, you give us a couple Patriots players we may not know much about, but we're going to before this game ends on Thursday night.
Well, with Stephen Ridley out, it's going to be really interesting what they do at running back. Because Shane Vereen is great. He's a great pass-catching back, good third-down guy. He's not a between-the-tackles kind of guy that you're going to give the ball to 20 times a game. And so you don't really know. Brandon Bolden is a candidate for those carries. Jonas Gray, if he's called up from the practice squad. So these are some names. And obviously Jets fans are familiar with Julian Edelman, but they're probably not so familiar with just how much Brady has relied on him this year. It just seems every time that they need a first down, they're in a 3rd and 6 or 3rd and 7. Julian Edelman just comes up with a play time and time again. So, he doesn't have the name that Rob Gronkowski does, but he's had a hell of a year for them, and I would watch him for sure on Thursday.
Dom, how about a Jet or two the Pats fans may not know much about? Maybe not Geno Smith, but they play well. The Jets have a chance. If they don't, the Jets are in trouble.
Well, I mentioned it before, but I think Muhammad Wilkerson and Sheldon Richardson along the defensive line, these are guys that don't put up huge numbers, but they do wreak a lot of havoc, and they've played very well this year. The Jets have gotten pressure on a number of these quarterbacks they've faced, but the problem is they're not very good in coverage. And Rex Ryan's tried a lot of different things. They threw a lot of zone at the Lions. They tried a lot of blitzing against the Chargers. They committed, played a lot of nickel and dime and put a lot of defenders in coverage last week against the Broncos, and nothing really seems to work, at least when it matters. They did keep Peyton Manning in check somewhat, but just not enough. So, but I think if Wilkerson and Richardson are able to get pressure on Brady and stifle the run, the Jets have also done a pretty good job against the run. They may be able to make some things happen and perhaps force a turnover or two, which is something the Jets have really not done this year. They've got 1 interception and 2 fumble recoveries from their defense. So they're getting pressure, but that pressure is not translating into the kind of game-changing plays that are the difference between being a bad team and a good team or even a great team.
It's not quite the Tuna Bowl back in the day. It's not quite the AFC divisional round, but Jets-Patriots always fun. We appreciate a few minutes here. Kevin Duffy, MLive.com, and, of course, Dom Cosentino for us at NJ.com. Guys, appreciate it, and enjoy the game Thursday night.
Thank you, Joe.
Thanks for watching, everyone.